Thank you, everyone, for joining me at this very special session for extraplanar threats at the third annual Healthy Faerun Symposium. The Tarrasque is widely recognized as one of the most catastrophic public health threats we face today. Capable of destroying entire cities in mere minutes, this creature represents an existential crisis unlike anything our communities have seen. Despite this clear and present danger, existing policies for Tarrasque containment remain dangerously inadequate and underfunded. As epidemiologists, it is our responsibility to inform evidence-based responses to public health threats. Traditional approaches by those in power, such as hiring mercenaries to harass it, sending it a cease and desist order, and pretending it doesn't exist, have consistently failed to neutralize or even meaningfully delay the Tarrasque's destructive path. In short, these methods have proven to be a complete waste of taxpayer gold. In recent times, policymakers have often postulated that there may be value in hiring so-called adventurers to contain the Tarrasque threat. But successful implementations of this approach to repel a Tarrasque in a real-world setting have yet to be seen, due in part to the inherent stochastic variance in adventurer competency, but more so the financial burden of engaging competent adventurers has been shown to scale exponentially with their ego, making the consistent employment of these naturally avaricious individuals unsustainable. On the other hand, the cost-effectiveness of low-level adventurers has been thoroughly documented in the literature, most notably by Baker and Perkins et al. In 2014, The Lost Mine of Phandelver. Researchers found that study participants were willing to risk their lives, enthusiastically even, for as little as 10 gold pieces. Thus, the central question of our research became clear. Can an evidence-based, community-level intervention, in this case the mass deployment of Level 1 adventurers, effectively neutralize this public health menace? Before we proceed further, allow me to establish the fundamental assumptions that ground our proposed Tarrasque response framework. Number 1, PHB 2014 only. Number 2, the Tarrasque is run accurately to the stats given in the Monster Manual 2014. No homebrew. And number 3, characters used point by for starting stats. Now, to formulate a plan of attack, we need to understand the Tarrasque's strengths and weaknesses. The Tarrasque is a marvel of evolutionary overcompensation, boasting an average of 676 hit points, with an armor class of 25 and immunities to fire, poison, and non-magical weaponry. This immediately rules out martial classes in our strategy. Its most astonishing adaptation, however, lies not in raw power, but its resistance to magic itself. The creature's reflective carapace turns many spells back upon the caster, while magic resistance grants it advantage on all saving throws. And yet, even this apex predator is not without its flaws. As noted by Volo et al., there is one chink in the Tarrasque's otherwise impenetrable armor: its lack of agility. With a dexterity saving throw modifier of only +0, this creature is astonishingly slow to react. A subtle weakness, to be sure, but in the hands of many, even the smallest chink can bring down a giant. At level 1, the only damage-dealing spells that rely on dexterity saving throws would be Burning Hands and Hellish Rebuke, both dealing fire damage, to which the Tarrasque is immune. Thus, we are limited to cantrips, the dex save ones being Acid Splash and Sacred Flame. Sacred Flame is the natural choice here, as it deals more damage against a single target. Sacred Flame is a cantrip unique to the cleric class, and thus, we propose the mass deployment of level 1 clerics specifically trained in the casting of Sacred Flame as the primary DPS against the Tarrasque. But the natural taxonomical question that follows is, what divine domain should we choose? Ultimately, our decision was informed by a simple reality. These clerics exist to die. The Tarrasque, with a 95% chance to hit, missing only on the unlucky natural one, would be instantly lethal on very nearly every attack. A systematic review of the divine domains revealed that the Tempest domain fit the situation perfectly. Upon being hit, Tempest clerics may rebuke their attacker, forcing it to make a dexterity saving throw. On a failed save, the Tarrasque takes 2d8 thunder or lightning damage, half on a success, making the moment of their death surprisingly efficient. Returning to our central question then, just how many of these warriors of faith are needed to fell this titanic foe? To rigorously evaluate the theoretical effectiveness of our sacrificial clerics, we cast the 9th level spell Monte Carlo's Multiversal Simulacrum. This spell allows us to simulate the same scenario across thousands of parallel universes, and then aggregate the results to estimate probable outcomes. In each iteration, we unleashed increasing numbers of clerics against one very angry Tarrasque, recorded the results, and repeated the process ad nauseum to determine what might happen in our world. We extend our condolences to the universes that failed to repel the Tarrasque and were tragically destroyed. The simulation procedure followed strict standardized conditions. The combatants included one Tarrasque with 33 d20 plus 330 hit points and an armor class of 25, as well as a number of level 1 Tempest clerics, each with 10 health points and an AC of 18. Each battle is divided into rounds. In each round, every surviving cleric attempts to cast Sacred Flame at the Tarrasque. The Tarrasque then retaliates with 8 attacks, 5 normal multi-attack, and 3 legendary actions. The simulation records how many clerics survive each round and tracks the total number of casualties, referred to as the body count. Combat continues round by round until either the Tarrasque is defeated or all clerics have perished. To obtain reliable and generalizable data, we repeatedly simulated the battle across various scenarios. We systematically tested each number of clerics from a heroically delusional 1 up to an apocalyptic 500. Each scenario was repeated 1,000 times across independent and identically distributed timelines, in full compliance with TVA regulations. We then aggregated statistics like win rate, average rounds taken, and average body count. And so, with our simulations out of the way, let's move on to the results. Our Monte Carlo simulation revealed several distinct phases regarding the cleric's effectiveness in combating the Tarrasque. So let's take a look at the win rate first. Scenarios involving 42 clerics or fewer consistently resulted in catastrophic failure, with a win rate of precisely 0%. Thus, deploying fewer than 43 clerics can be seen as a fundamentally ineffective public health intervention. The first recorded success, if one can call a 0.2% win rate a success, occurred at exactly 43 clerics. From there, victory likelihood increases rapidly but erratically. At approximately 51 clerics, we reach the 50% win rate threshold, the point at which odds of success are about as good as flipping a coin. And once deployment reached 60 clerics, victory became statistically inevitable, with a win rate of 99.9%. Beyond this point, the Tarrasque is as good as dead, and strategic focus shifts away from whether the clerics will win and towards how fast they can win, and how many of them get flattened in the process. Now, in terms of the battle duration, the simulation also revealed a clear pattern. Initially, with very few clerics, battles are brief and catastrophic, lasting only a single round due to the Tarrasque's overwhelming lethality. Specifically, scenarios involving 8 clerics or fewer resulted uniformly in instant defeat, as the Tarrasque's 8 attacks per round were sufficient to eliminate all clerics immediately. As the number of clerics increased beyond 8, combat extended in duration. Not because they had a chance, but because there were simply more bodies to chew through. Victory remained firmly out of reach, but the Tarrasque, ever the professional, took its time clearing the queue. Around 49 to 50 clerics, we hit the peak in average round length. 7 rounds of futile martyrdom. This represents the tipping point, where the clerics have just enough presence to stall for time, but not quite enough to finish the job. The result? Extended suffering and an even larger cleanup bill. Beyond the critical tipping point, we observed a notable decline in average battle duration, as the growing clerical force delivers sufficient damage to dispatch the Tarrasque more rapidly. At 436 clerics, we reach a notable strategic benchmark, what some researchers call the overkill threshold, a critical mass capable of reliably slaying the Tarrasque in a single round. Casualty rates among the clerics correlated closely with battle duration. Given the Tarrasque's predictable pattern of 8 strikes per round, with each attack nearly guaranteed to eliminate a single cleric, the casualty rate was consistently observed to be approximately 8 deaths per round. As a result, total clerical losses closely match the number of rounds in each scenario, illustrating the importance of a swift resolution as a key objective of clerical mobilization strategy. In determining optimal cleric deployment, we employed a public health economics approach. Drawing from precedent in adventure recruitment incentives, notably the Gundren Rockseeker Initiative, we estimated a market standard recruitment incentive of 10 gold pieces per level 1 cleric. A remarkable fact, if somewhat sad. However, recruitment alone does not fully capture the logistical and human costs associated with mass clerical deployment. We further accounted for administrative overhead of 2 gold per cleric, rapid deployment training costs of 3 gold per cleric, and anticipated funeral and bereavement expense of 5 gold per casualty. To represent the looming cost of failure, we divided the total cost by the probability of success. Thus, low win rate leads to greatly inflated true cost due to the need to deploy new squads after the previous squads fail. Our cost-effectiveness analysis thus considered both the probability of successfully neutralizing the Tarrasque and the associated humanoid and logistical expenses. While deploying fewer clerics appears superficially cost-efficient, our simulations clearly demonstrate that inadequate mobilization leads to catastrophic failure more often and total loss of invested resources. Conversely, exceedingly large deployments, while effective, incur unnecessarily high expenditures, diminishing returns on public investment. Therefore, our analysis identifies a sweet spot at 58 clerics, where public gold expenditures are kept at the absolute minimum of 1,081 gold pieces, while still addressing the Tarrasque threat, with an estimated total body count of only 41 clerics. Now, to contextualize our recommended public health investment of 1,081 gold pieces, consider that this sum is slightly less than the cost of a single suit of standard plate armor at 1,500 gold pieces, or approximately 21 basic healing potions at 1,050 gold pieces. By contrast, the Tarrasque containment methods commonly proposed by policymakers involve hiring elite adventurers at premium rates, easily exceeding 50,000 gold pieces for a team of sufficient competency. Not to mention the astronomical expenses associated with magical armaments, diamond-based resurrection, or inevitable property damage claims. Indeed, our research shows that an elite response requires expenditures tens or even hundreds of times greater than our proposed clerical intervention. In short, the mass deployment of sacrificial level 1 clerics represents not only an evidence-based but also an exceptionally cost-effective approach to addressing this catastrophic public health crisis. This evidence-based finding offers policymakers a clear and actionable recommendation for optimal resource allocation in response to Tarrasque-level threats. Conclusion. Our research demonstrates that the coordinated mass deployment of 58 Level 1 Tempest clerics armed only with radiant faith, unwavering resolve, and 0 magical items can reliably neutralize the most devastating terrestrial threat known to Faerun, the Tarrasque. At a total cost of merely 1,081 gold pieces, this intervention is not merely economical. It is, by all accounts, a bargain. By leveraging scalable cantrip-based damage, capitalizing on the Tarrasque's one statistical vulnerability, and accepting the unfortunate but cost-tolerable sacrifice of 41 clerics per engagement, we have shown that this evidence-based solution is not a leap of faith, but both feasible and fiscally responsible. In an age of increasingly frequent extraplanar incursions, we must move beyond outdated paradigms of elite adventure reliance and embrace community-scale sacrificial strategy. With a data-driven approach, a solid casting grid, and a few very brave clerics, we can turn even the greatest monstrosity into a manageable public health event. Thank you.